with Islamist insurgency causing one of the world's fastest-growing humanitarian crises in Burkina Faso, a group called Burkina Faso Sheikh wants the world to know there is more to the country than surviving conflict.
As the United Nations highlights individuals working to create a sustainable environment for food security around the globe, Nigeria works to enhance food security at home. Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from The Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent McCory at The Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Our broadcast still looks a little different because of the global pandemic, but we truly appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Channels Television in Lagos brings you that story.
For over 4 decades, the United Nations has sustained advocacy on food security, healthy nutrition, and a safer environment across the world. For this year's annual celebration on food, the focus is appreciating individuals who contribute to creating a sustainable environment for food security. This report examines food security in Nigeria as the country joins the rest of the world to celebrate.
Nigeria has over 70 million hectares of arable land suitable for crop production that can guarantee food security and generate foreign exchange for the country. However, statistics from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development reveals that only 40% of the country's arable land is cultivated, mainly by peasant farmers. Cassava, yam, maize, guinea corn, millet, and recently rice are the major crops produced in Nigeria. Although experts say Nigeria has the potential to produce crops that can feed 600 million people, annual local agricultural produce can barely feed its 200 million population, as the country spends 1.89 trillion naira annually on food importation. At this news conference to mark the 2021 World Food Day in Abuja, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development highlights what needs to be done to harness the country's huge agricultural potentials.
The expectations we have in agriculture to take Nigeria to the promised land could only be achieved when our entrepreneurs take deliberate actions to invest in different value chains. The potentials across crops, livestock, horticulture, and fisheries subsectors are enormous.
According to the federal government, Nigeria is currently Africa's largest producer of rice, cassava, and yam. It is also ranked 14th in the Global Maize Production Index. However, insecurity remains a major challenge for some of these farmers in northern Nigeria. Apart from insecurity, some other farmers say they need government support to increase their productivity.
If there is help from government, they can even share fertilizer among the farmers, so that it will help us to produce more quantities.
The outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria last year greatly compounded Nigeria's food security problem, which is already threatened by insecurity, including direct attacks on farmers in some parts of the country, challenges that still exist and must be addressed to prevent any looming food crisis.
Joining us now is Dr. Sam Oluwogbon, Secretary at the Center for Sustainable Agricultural Empowerment. Thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin by examining food security in Nigeria. How would you assess Nigeria's stride in this sector?
Yes, United Nations Committee on World Food Security has defined food security as a situation whereby all people at all times have sufficient, safe, and nutritious access to physical, social, and economic access to food and to meet their daily needs. Looking at these domains and conditions, you will agree with me that it means all people, regardless of their location and status, at all times, regardless of the season, should have access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. Looking at these domains, you will agree that Nigeria needs to still do more than they are doing at the moment to attain national food security.
So no doubt there are challenges that hamper food security in the country. What can be done, perhaps individually and at the government's level, to overcome these problems and ensure a sustainable environment?
Yes, at the government level, I would strongly recommend designing an inclusive agricultural policy, which caters for all categories of individuals that are in the country. At the same time, a policy that is intentional at encouraging youth and the vulnerable to participate in agriculture. A policy that will drive innovation. I will also talk about the fact that there's a need for us to treat farmers as king. 80% of the food produced in Nigeria are produced by smallholder farmers. These farmers are to be treated as king. They are expected to be exposed to targeted safety nets that will help them, things like health insurance, farm insurance, to help them and increase their ability to produce more. There's also a need for us to build capacity of farmers, capacity building in the area of digital literacy, capacity building in the area of post-harvest management, since most of the food that are produced are lost in the process of post-harvest handling. Also, capacity building in the area of adapting to climate change. We also want the government to encourage innovative research in terms of agriculture.
And with every sector of the economy adjusting to the new realities that, COVID-19 presents, what strategic measures can we put in place in the agricultural sector to rebuild the country's disrupted food system?
There's a need for us to give for the government and all stakeholders, NGOs, and all stakeholders to actually give input subsidies to farmers. Try as much as possible for farmers to actually have direct access to input that will help their production. Food wastage should be reduced to the barest minimum. About 40% of the food produced are wasted along the value chain. This food could actually be engaged and used to actually reduce the issue of food crisis that we have at the moment. There should be targeted support for farmers, especially women farmers, based on the study that men are likely to adopt strategies.
Right, thank you for your time, Dr. Sam Oluogbon. Thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
In Ivory Coast, there is a new tool in the fight against counterfeit pharmaceuticals. A startup company now helps pharmacies digitally trace the sale of drugs to their customers. Yassine Chio has more in this report, narrated by Leonor Gahima.
This alley in Abidjan's Adjamé district is part of Roxy, West Africa's largest market for fake, substandard, or illegally distributed medicine. Awa Koulibaly says she's been selling pharmaceuticals here since August.
Medicines for fatigue, malaria, stomach pain, everything.
Here, shoppers look for medicine at bargain prices.
The pharmacy charges 6,000 francs for something I can get here for 4,500. When I don't have that much money, I come here. When I have enough, I buy from the pharmacy.
Wilfried Osso is among the estimated 40% of Ivorians who buy antibiotics, anti-malarias, and other medicines on the street. But there's no guarantee that products sold here contain the proper ingredients or incorrect amounts. The World Health Organization says roughly 1 in 10 medical products in low and middle-income countries is substandard or potentially toxic. Ivorian authorities have closed the Roxy market several times to get counterfeit medicine off the street. To safeguard customers, the nearby Nouvelle Pharmacie Fraternité last year began using technology from the startup company Meditect. It tracks medicine from the source to the point of sale. Pharmacy assistant Ange Bouri demonstrates.
I scan the package with my phone's camera, and it tells me when the medicine arrived, where it came from, and how much is in stock.
A QR code verifies authenticity of the medication and traces its journey from laboratory to pharmacy. It also lists possible drug substitutions.
The prescribed medicine may be out of stock, but this app recommends good alternatives. I don't let the customer leave without medicine because out there he can meet ladies selling street drugs.
Meditech's smartphone app is available free to Ivory Coast pharmacists and patients. Right now, Meditech only authenticates medicine from its partner, the French pharmaceutical company UPSA. Meditech aims to extend its reach in sub-Saharan Africa, says co-founder Arnaud Pourredon.
We take advantage of the internet being everywhere throughout the entire sub-region. There is a very good penetration of smartphones as well. We come up with a solution that is mobile, that is digital. That is how we have a very strong impact.
Pourredon says Meditech's software not only can trace medications and monitor inventory, but it will also be able to monitor patients. This new digital solution will be introduced in January in Ivory Coast, Senegal and Cameroon, and perhaps one day throughout French-speaking Africa. For Yassim Chiyoy in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, Lionel Gahima, VOA News.
Thousands of tons of electronic waste are being recycled in Egypt through government initiatives that aim to minimize the harmful impacts of the unsafe management of these used equipment. The new initiative is offering incentives to citizens to hand over their old electronic devices for recycling.
E-Tadware, launched in June this year after Egypt passed a new law for waste management in 2020. It connects citizens with e-waste collection points at branches of Raya and Vodafone, two private sector telecommunication companies, who in turn move the discarded devices to recycling centers. This allows users to log their old devices into a special application and get discount vouchers for a variety of products as an incentive.
For people to give me their e-waste, I have to give them an incentive. In the current situation, until the e-waste law is implemented, the value of this incentive must be greater than what the unofficial sector offers for e-waste. So we started getting in touch with companies that can offer discount vouchers.
Nearly 90,000 tons of e-waste are produced annually within the country of 100 million people. They are usually handled by garbage collectors in the informal sector, who keep the recyclable parts of electronics and haphazardly discard the rest. This poses a serious environmental and public health threat due to contamination caused by hazardous minerals.
The hazard is in the battery, so we collect them in boxes and bury them in Al Nasiriyah in Alexandria at the end of each month. It's a safe and healthy location because we currently cannot recycle lithium batteries, unfortunately.
10 factories are currently licensed to recycle e-waste, and more factories are expected to receive new licenses, the Environment Ministry said.
So E-Tadware was a part of a bigger approach that we had, a market-oriented approach, where we focused on formalizing the recycling part, as I mentioned, moving from 2 formal recyclers to 6 recyclers, so very specialized with high-tech processes. And on the other side, we were playing a role in formalizing the collection. So from the user of mobile phone tablets, in households, to the points where, at the end of the life of the equipment, we can collect these devices and channel them to the recyclers.
The project is carried out by the Egyptian Ministry of Environment with the collaboration of the United Nations Development Programme and a number of private sector companies.
It's time for a short break. As we do, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come on the program, the Congolese rumba, a music made popular in the 1940s, could find its way into UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Republic of Congo campaign for UNESCO to recognize the historical significance of the rumba.
Burkina Faso has been making headlines for an Islamist insurgency that has created one of the world's fastest growing humanitarian crises. But one man is showcasing what the country has to offer beyond conflict with a group he created called Burkina Faso is Sheikh. Henry Wilkins reports from Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso.
Since its conflict began nearly 6 years ago, tourists in Burkina Faso have become a rare sight. The US State Department advises against all travel to the country due to the risk of terrorism, kidnapping and crime. Ben Nombre, a local web developer, is doing what he can to turn the tide of the country's image and showcase the good the country has to offer.
Alors, le Burkina Faso est chic, c'est une idée qui est venue.
Burkina Faso is chic is an idea I came up with in 2019 when I started to notice that we had a lot of terrorist attacks. I saw that Burkina Faso was losing its image. You know that Burkina Faso has long been a country where there were a lot of tourists coming in, but in recent years, we lost many of them.
Burkina Faso A Chic's Facebook page has attracted almost 24,000 followers. It posts regularly highlighting a range of topics from lively night spots to the country's nature and wildlife. The West African country has a rich equestrian heritage, but this local business that had catered to tourists wishing to ride horses is struggling, says the owner.
It has been affected a lot. It has been affected a lot since 2016. It is like you see at one time in such moments here, it was full of people, but since the terrorism, it's affected a lot.
The government says that as international tourist numbers have dropped, they're looking at aiding businesses in the tourism industry.
We had a lot of money coming in from tourism, but we saw a considerable drop of more than 28% of that income. So there was a negative impact, at least in the beginning. Now it is necessary to develop domestic tourism instead of foreign tourism.
The manager of Squash Time, a recently opened club which offers visitors the chance to play squash before drinks and dancing, says that when Nombre made a post about them on Burkina Faso A Chic, it transformed their business.
Pour vous dire vrai, ça boostait énormément notre business.
To tell you the truth, it boosted our business enormously. To such a point, it's no exaggeration to say there were weekends where we had to turn people away. We are in the process of extending the building so that we can take them, because, frankly, we're overwhelmed. I really take my hat off to Mr. Ben.
Mon chapeau à Monsieur Ben.
Even in the midst of conflict, some aspects of Burkina Faso still thrive. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso.
The Democratic Republic of Congo and Republic of Congo have launched a campaign to put the Congolese rumba, a music style that entertained revelers in Central Africa for generations, on UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage. The aim is to recognize the historical importance of a dance that came to prominence in the 1940s and has inspired musicians from across the continent.
Perched on a corner of the stage as an open-air club in Congo's capital, Kinshasa, Mande Chante sings a classic rumba song that has been an anthem for anti-colonial movements in Africa for more than 50 years. The 1960 hit by Congolese icon Le Grand Cas politicians to put aside their differences to achieve independence debuted during negotiations for Congo's liberation from Belgium, electrifying delegates. Within 4 months, Congo was free. Manda, who sings rumba classics every Friday with his band Bana OK, holds a particular reverence for the song and the entire rumba genre.
In fact, rumba has many characteristics. It existed for more than 50 years. I have lived my whole life with the rumba. If you look at the rumba now, we have elevated and developed it. Although we have kept our references to the icon Le Grand Kali, Papa Wemba, Simaramasia, and Tabule.
61 years later, rumba remains at the core of music made across Africa, and a movement has emerged to cement its reputation and secure its protection. Authorities in Kinshasa and Brazzaville, the capital of neighboring Congo Republic, have submitted a joint bid to add Congolese rumba to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural List of Intangible Cultural Heritage.
Rumba is our creation. Rumba is us. Rumba is our life. Rumba is our vision. That's why we want the rumba to be recognized as our own. It is our identity. Rumba is Congolese.
Andre Yoka, director of the National Institute for the Arts in Kinshasa, is leading Congo's candidacy for UNESCO status.
Our ancestors were deported to the Americas in the 15th and 16th centuries and went either to North America, Central America, or South America, but the focal point was Cuba. So in Cuba, there was a surprising mixture from those who came from Africa, but also from the ones the slaves had encountered once there.
The name rumba derives from Nkomba, literally meaning belly button in the local language, which was the naval dance in the ancient Kingdom of Congo, according to Congo's submission to UNESCO. Regardless of the campaign's outcome, the importance of rumba to Congolese society is not lost on UNESCO. To Jean-Pierre Ulbudu, UNESCO's representative in Kinshasa, its recognition is important for everyone. UNESCO will announce its decision in November.
As the coronavirus has spread in Nigeria, Africa's most populated country, so have many myths about the virus, especially among children. A Nigerian author has written a children's book to help them understand the pandemic and ways to avoid being infected.
A team of educators arrives at a government school in Abuja. The team is led by Raquel Kashim Daniel, a Nigerian author and founder of the non-profit Beyond the Classroom Foundation. They are here to educate school children about the coronavirus pandemic and personal hygiene. They're equipped with books, face masks, and sanitizers. Daniel says the initiative started last year when COVID-19 hit Nigeria.
But because COVID was evolving, I knew that I wouldn't have one edition of the book. So we've had different editions of the book where I had to update it from time to time. The support that we have received has mostly come from social media and from funders who have seen our work.
The COVID-19 children's book is titled There's a New Virus in Town. It has colorful images along with text to help children understand the deadly virus better. The book also contains a quiz at the end where children can guess the next character or topic. 12-year-old Jamila Abdul was one of the readers.
I wash my hands regularly, wear my face mask, keep your compound clean.
9-year-old Prekulia Oyewole says he'll keep safe to keep his friends safe.
I was angry because the coronavirus killed so many people. So I wanted it to not kill my friends.
Despite Nigeria recording more than 200,000 cases of the coronavirus, authorities say myths and misinformation about the pandemic continue to spread, and children are among the most susceptible. Daniel's program, which has reached some 14,000 children so far, is helping to bridge the education gap, not only in schools, but also among vulnerable groups like these children in a village near Abuja.
Some will say only older people are dying because God wants to save the children, and so God is cleaning the earth. We heard all sorts of things. So what we do with our volunteers, because we have to train our volunteers before they go on the field, is to teach them and arm them with information about these myths and say to them, when you get on the field, this is how to debunk it.
Nigerian authorities have been organizing mass sensitization programs to educate the public and try to overcome misinformation they blame for a slow vaccine uptake. But while that happens, Raquel Kashim Daniel will be having an impact on kids. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.